Before we go into detail about macro filters, let's take a quick look at the lens. You'll see that on the focus ring of every lens, there's a minimum focusing distance at one end, and the other end is usually an infinity symbol. As we know, the lower the focal length, the closer we can be to a subject and still be able to get focus. This 85mm has a minimum distance of 1.1 meters, or about 3.5 feet, whereas the 35mm has a minimum focusing distance of 0.3 meters, or about 1 foot. If the subject is closer to the lens than the minimum distance indicated, it will be impossible to focus. The minimal focal length on a 35mm is 1 foot, or 0.3 meters. As we see here with my hand, if we try to focus on my fingers, it is impossible. So, bring in the macro filter. Essentially, what a macro filter does is reduce the lens's focal length, in turn, reducing the minimum focusing distance. These filters are available in a range of what are called diopters. If you wear glasses, you might recognize this term because it's also used to describe the amount of positive or negative magnification that's needed for eye corrections. But because we want to amplify the image, macro filters are only described in positive numbers such as +1, +2, +4, going all the way up to +10. The higher the number, the more magnification. We can also stack these numbers to increase the magnification. But remember, as light passes through more glass, the quality of the image will start to decrease. It's also worth mentioning that when using a macro filter, we won't be able to focus to infinity. Macro filters are constructed in two ways: single element and double element. Single element filters are significantly cheaper, but also produce lower quality images. Most often, this lower quality results in less sharpness along the edges of an image, or as chromatic aberration along the edges of elements within the image. If you find this is happening, it can usually be avoided by using a higher aperture. But if you want to have full freedom with your lens and the aperture, then a double element filter is what you need. On these filters, the second element is actually designed to correct the defects of the first element. These filters may also be referred to as achromatic filters. As with all close-up work, the depth of field will shrink the closer the camera is to the subject. And with some macro filters, it can even be reduced to just a few millimeters. In this case, you'll likely want to use a tripod or adjust your aperture to increase the depth of field. A quality macro lens can be expensive, but if you're a photographer and macro photography is your niche, or you do product filmmaking for things such as jewelry or food, then it's worth investing in a specialty macro lens. But if it's not in your budget, or it's not something you'll use often, then macro filters may be the best option for you.